Hey everyone, what's going on? Colin here for another episode of CERNIG, and hopefully this time the audio for this solo pod is a little bit better than at least what I could hear from it the last time that I did this. And man, I was so nervous. You can, well, at least I could tell. Maybe you couldn't tell the listener, but I could tell just by listening the way that I was talking in the beginning and just getting some of the nerves out. It's been a long time since I had done a solo pod like that before. Most of the time there's somebody that I'm talking to, and that helps, I guess, get me into my comfort zone these days. And doing solo pods was a little bit outside of that comfort zone. So it was good to do. I got some good feedback from that podcast, and I'll definitely sprinkle these in with the efforts that I'm making to bring on some really A-level guests. I hope y'all enjoyed that episode with Christian Rowe, again, the band manager for Trampled by Turtles, that came out couple weeks ago now at this point, or a week ago at this point. And I have some other people that I'm reaching out to, some conversations. This format is good because, while I'd love to be able to have a lot of guests on Two Jocks and a Schlub with Matt and Ethan, sometimes the time that we have together, sometimes we just want to be together. We don't get to see each other very often, and it's great to just spend some time together. Other times we run into a little bit of challenges when it comes to timing. We tend to record pretty late on Wednesday nights, and not everybody wants to do that or can do that. So this is a really nice avenue to be able to do some additional content and some additional episodes that maybe otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do. But I'm definitely trying to get more out of that mindset. There's the great line that Don Henley uses in the Eagles documentary when he talks about being a solo artist and how he would have very willingly went back to the Eagles much sooner than Glenn Frey did, because when you're with a band, the band shares the responsibility, good and bad. But when you're a solo artist, it all falls on you. And that, I think that's a little bit why I was so nervous the last episode. I just felt that weight of it just being me. So try to be better this time. And I do have some pretty interesting topics. Things have continued to move along in life, as they tend to do, I guess, for most people. I guess the biggest thing, for if people didn't know, that happened to me a couple weeks ago leading up to my wife's birthday. I came down with COVID. I don't think it's the first time that I've had it, just given what the symptoms were. And I distinctly remember having very similar symptoms roughly almost exactly a year ago. But it was the first time I ever tested positive for COVID. So we definitely knew that that's what it was, and immediately went into quarantine. And like I said, I found out the day before Christine's birthday, and we had plans to go out. We had childcare. We had reservations at a restaurant in Charlotte here where it's not easy to get a reservation, and Christina's wanted to go for a long time. So Stella also had a birthday party for one of her best friends, Ames, and couldn't go to that. So it was a tough weekend. It was Easter weekend. I couldn't spend time with the girls. I was all alone in the bedroom, just trying to, again, keep it isolated to just me. And we did. Nobody else got sick, including our nanny, Alexis. Everyone was good. And, outside of really the day that I tested, I had symptoms the day before that Thursday, but more cold-like symptoms. That was really, it was, that's what it felt like to me the whole time, was a cold, outside of a roughly 4 to 5 hour period Friday evening into Friday night where I got some serious chills. I had some body aches that were really bad, and that's what ultimately, I guess, pushed me, or pushed Christine, I guess, to say, okay, let's test and just see what this is and everything. And it came back, and I didn't take any crazy medications. I'm not high risk by any means, and just took some Motrin really to help with the chills and the fever, because I did have a fever too. That was what I realized once I tested positive and I was feeling those symptoms that I mentioned. I did check my temperature, and I had like 102 something fever. But I felt like that broke at some point on Friday because, I was pretty sweaty in bed. And, even though I was taking the Motrin to help with that, I never again had a fever the entire time. And, there was a point Wednesday or Friday night, pretty late at night, probably 10 to 11 o'clock. And I think Christine had already gone to bed and I was just bored and I was texting her anyway. And I said, this is so frustrating because I felt so sick, for the hours leading up to that. And then it was like, it just felt like a cold again. And I was like, and if I hadn't had that, time where things got really bad, um, I wouldn't have known, and maybe we could have done things, but then on the flip side, like I would have put a lot of people in danger. So I guess in a way, it was good that I got so sick the night before, and we did do the test, but that was not fun at all. The 5 days or whatever it was, quarantining alone, not feeling 100%, not feeling as bad as some people who've had COVID, but definitely don't want to do that again. And we have Christine's birthday plans rescheduled all the way for the end of May. That was the next time we could make it work with both our childcare and our nighttime childcare. And getting a reservation at this restaurant. I guess we could just pop in and try to get a table, but I figure if she's going to get her hopes up, I definitely want to make sure that we have a table. And we were able to get a reservation leading up to Memorial Day weekend, so we have that to look forward to. And she did get to eat her cake because I had made the cake right before I got sick. I made a funfetti cookie cake using a recipe online. If anyone wants it, just reach out to me. I'll send it to you. It was super easy, but it was delicious. That's something that I've tried to do now with birthdays. I did it kind of on and off for Christine, like, when we were first dating, first married. I remember I made this really difficult cheesecake that actually came out pretty good, but it was really hard for me to make. I don't know that I really want to do fancy things like that every year, but like last year for Stella, I did a Cookie Monster cake because she was in a big Cookie Monster phase. And then, Christine loves funfetti. And I said, instead of just, regular funfetti cake, let me try to do a cookie cake, found a recipe. It was so moist. If you ever have gone to Wegmans, the grocery store, and you've had a cookie cake from Wegmans, you know what I'm talking about when I say, it's moist and it's delicious. And so somehow I nailed it on first try, even though I was already starting to feel a little bit off when I was making the cake. So I was a little worried that there was like COVID in the cake or something like that. But again, nobody got sick, and at least Christine had birthday cake, and she did get some really cool presents and things like that for her birthday. So this is probably works out better for her. She just gets to extend her birthday into 2 months, and who wouldn't want that? So it'll all work out. But that was the biggest thing that's happened since the last time all talked to you. And I guess the other big thing that you all knew already was, I'm in the middle of a job transition. I had gotten laid off from my former employer on March 1st. And, for much of the job search, it has been super frustrating. It's just, clearer than ever before how broken the recruitment system is. And being in recruitment for almost a decade now, I was very aware of that already. I have been a job seeker many times before, including recently, since the pandemic, because this is the second time I've gotten laid off since the pandemic, although it wasn't, I guess, exactly related to the pandemic this time, but it was economic. So I guess you could attribute that somewhat to the pandemic and the swings that have happened. But it's just crazy to me that we have all these companies hiring, and there's just really no personal touch and no way to have applicants know if they're information that they work on really hard, putting together resumes and cover letters and, reaching out to hiring managers and to recruiters. Like a lot of times you don't even know if any of that stuff is being received. And if it is, like, what's the feedback on it? Is it hitting? Can I improve it? What's the deal? And, on the recruiting side, it's super busy, and there's a lot to do. It's very difficult to have a really efficient recruiting process, but just because it's difficult doesn't mean that we can't have it, right? So, I think it was just a little bit eye-opening, to see from a even wider scale, being someone who was a job applicant, how broken the system felt to me. I got to a couple final interviews. One time I got completely ghosted. I'm not going to badmouth anybody, obviously, but one time I got completely ghosted, and then the other time, just unfortunately, they decided it was a remote role down in the Miami area, and they decided, after all of that, to change it to hybrid. It wasn't, Miami's great, but I'm not interested in moving to Miami right now, so that was just a little frustrating to go through all of that time and only to find out that it's being changed, the scope of the job. But those things happen, and at least that company was communicative in the way that they went about everything, and didn't leave me hanging like the other company. But other than that, I mean, I had a couple, I guess, initial screens, first interviews, and probably not more than a handful. And either I wasn't feeling it, after that, or they weren't feeling it for whatever reason. Like there just wasn't a whole lot, and it was frustrating and even pretty bleak, at times, especially just knowing that the two opportunities that I gotten really deep with, ended up kind of flaming out really bad, and then not knowing if the other couple things that I had were ever gonna come to fruition. I'm very happy to say that starting next week, you all hear this on Friday if you listen on Friday, and maybe it'll be next week by the time you get to it. But starting next week, I am the AVP of talent acquisition in the Americas for a company called SCOR. That's SCOR. It is a leadership position within the company. We are anticipating building out a team sometime over the next year, maybe or so. It's a global company, so it's a big company. My manager is actually in Paris, France, which is really cool wrinkle into everything. And there is a local, a lot of the HR team, a lot of the HR VPs, the SVP of HR, who I did my final interview with, actually all reside in Charlotte in the Americas. So it's going to be a hybrid opportunity for me. I'll get to go uptown a few times a week, and have some of that in person for really the first time. I did a little bit of it when I did a contract at Wells Fargo before the pandemic, but I haven't worked. I don't think I'll ever take a full-time on-site job again. But the last time I did that was way back in 2017. So it's been a very long time, and it's a nice change. It's a great opportunity. It's really interesting that you can go through all of that crap that I just talked about with the broken recruitment system, and have all of those frustrations, and come out, in a pretty good situation. I'm very happy with how things turned out, and with the prospect of the team that I'm going to be working with, and the team that I'm going to help build in the future, and the recruitment workflow that we're going to ace at SCOR, and not give people the same experience that I had. In my experience with SCOR was really great too. So I think there's a lot to build off of there, a lot of positive things to build off already. I just know they haven't had anybody in the Americas dedicated to talent acquisition, so I know the HR VPs are already ready to give me all of their work and to free up their space for other things that a little bit more up their alley and whatnot. So it'll be a change for a lot of people. people in the organization. But it's really exciting, and I'm just really grateful for the opportunity and to get that weight off my shoulders. I'm working on my consulting firm. I also landed one of my first consulting clients just this morning, actually, as I'm recording this. And so CERNIG is I guess growing as well, and I plan to continue to grow that business and to do as much recruitment consultant, because at the end of the day, that's what I care about, the most when it comes to talent acquisition. I'm very good at the acquisition piece. I can do the recruiting, and that'll be something I continue to do for the near future. That's part of my job description now, and I expect it'll be even when I have a team in the future here. But being able to help companies, for the most part, my consulting is going to be for smaller companies or early stage startups, somewhere between 2 and 50 people. But even there, you can create a great candidate experience while also creating a great employer experience, an employee experience. The people who are involved in that hiring process, your evaluators. And I think it's just something that I've become so much more passionate about in the second half of my career here. The first half of my career was really focused on building as many skills as I could to become a full-fledged, full cycle, some people call it 360 recruiter. And the second half of my career, I found myself, really taking a deep care into wanting to improve the candidate experience and wanting to help employers, really have a consistent, efficient recruiting workflow. That's what I did at Snappy Kraken, my former employer. That's what I did at Stratified, a small startup here in the Charlotte area. I took a contract after I got laid off before Snappy Kraken. That's in a way what I'm going to be getting to do as well with Score. So even in my full-time work, there's that element to it, which is really exciting. But for my consulting, I definitely want to do a lot of that. I have the leadership and the culture coaching as well, and I have the resume review services, and that one's been, I think, the most popular one so far. I've had so many people reach out to me, and that's been really great to help out people. But a lot of exciting things in the life of work, and just again, really grateful to be able to start next week, and I guess I'll provide updates on that as it's going. But and it was a big weight off the shoulder. I had a note written down in my I always have like at least some rough notes that I go off of here, and I was like, the biggest difference between this layoff versus the last layoff was, the world is largely open now, whereas last time it was largely closed, and the need to spend money just wasn't there as much. And it was totally different this time, whether it was, things that Christine and I had wanted to do at the house, vacations that we'd wanted to plan, sporting events and, different extracurriculars for Stella. Aria's not quite old enough for some of that stuff yet, but I was like, this is all adding up way, way too fast for one income. And it's something one of my favorite comedians, Bill Burr, rants about often, and it's a very legitimate rant, and I think it's the reason he brings it up all the time. And he talks about whether that was right or wrong. Back in the day, if you will, you could be a milk salesperson or a milk delivery person, and that was enough to get by. Your spouse, a lot of cases in America, at least, it was the wife, had to didn't have to, but stayed home, and that was it. You had enough income from one person. That's not the case in 2023. It's almost I guess, unless you're a millionaire, it's almost impossible to live off of one income. If you're middle class, and I realize middle class is kind of a polarizing phrase, and there's also a very wide variety in terms of maybe where you land on that middle class. But I consider, Christine and I to be middle class, and our family to be middle class. And, I think if you are middle class, it is difficult. If you want to do things and you have a certain lifestyle to live off of one income, even if it's a good income. Um, I've just been surprised, with one of the other things I've done, since the pandemic is take a deeper look into finances and how we budget. And not because I want to be more rigid, but because I do want to spend money. That was like, it was, I think, the complete opposite of why people usually budget. For me, it was more about how do I not feel guilty about spending money? And, I talked to you guys about the money that I spent for the Eagles concert and the VIP experience. And, 5 years ago, I would have never done that. There's just no way. And now I know what type of things I want to spend money on, what type of experiences. For the most part, those are the things. I don't like to actually get things these days. I like to have experiences. And that was a big reason. But yeah, anyway, it's just wild how different these experiences were, just given the circumstances of the world and expectations as a result of that and everything. So um, it's good to be back, as as the kids say, I guess. But um, one other thing I wanted to talk to everybody about today, and then I have a really funny story to end everything on, is a sugar journey. So trying to tackle my addiction to sugar. And I was just having a conversation with our nanny Alexis about this yesterday during lunch, and we were talking about how sugar is one of those really interesting things because for me, personally, one of the things I really struggled with was just the treats and the sugar and the sweets that you would think about when you hear that word sugar, like desserts in general, candy, cupcakes, whatever it is. Like, I have a big sweet tooth. I love that type of food. And for, my whole life, really, that I can remember, it's been hard to regulate that more than any other food group, more than alcohol, more than I don't drink soda. I haven't drank soda for 20 years probably, now at this point. I don't know how long, maybe that's a little too long, but um I decided, this was during my paternity leave. So before I got laid off, I decided one of the things I wanted to do personally was just really tackle this addiction and get it under control. And that really, for me, and this is not a blanket statement, this is not me saying that this is what you should do. For me, it was really, really cutting out the majority of desserts in general, and also taking a look at, and this is the link to the conversation with Alexis. There's a lot of sugar in so many things that you wouldn't think of, like sauce, for example. A lot of sauce is really high in sugar. It's delicious, obviously, but it's not as great for you as you might think it is. And so just looking at ingredients, and then Christine having excuse me, her background in being nutrition certified, she's been really helpful in hidden ingredients too, because sometimes when you see something that's sugar free or low on sugar, whatever it is, like, it's replaced by some type of artificial sugar that's even worse than what the original thing was. But I got to say that especially the first few weeks, but the first month or so was difficult. I basically committed to saying that this was January when I decided that I was going to really tackle this, and I said, I'm not having a dessert until my birthday. My birthday's on February 15th, so I had about a month, outlook at that point where I said, I'm not going to have a dessert. I'll obviously get sugar from other things, in particular fruit, which is something I really like, but and alcohol, but I'm even going to cut back on that a little bit and not drink as much. In those first few weeks, I mean, pretty much every single night, I was just, I'd want sugar so bad. I'd want a dessert. I'd want something. And then, the funniest thing happened. Uh, I don't even know when it was, but it was, sometime after that first month, like that craving went away. So much so that I've had two recent events, that Eagles concert that I mentioned. And then we went to the beach in March as well for a wedding down in Charleston, and we went to Folly Beach. Both times I had brought just one thing of candy with me. Just as a treat. I just said like, okay, these are fun events. These are the experience things that I said I'm going to spend my money on. I'm going to reward myself. Both times, I did not even think about them at all. Like the candy didn't get eaten. And if you had said that to me prior to January 15th, let's say, of this year, you can bet for sure that candy was going to get eaten. So just to like when I remember I picked up my hoodie at the Eagles concert and I realized that the Juji fruits that I had were still in there, and I was like, well, I'm not going to eat them on the car ride home. Like I've already gone this far and everything because I just had completely forgotten. I just got lost in the event. I did have a beer that night, and obviously I had a couple drinks at the wedding as well, but just hilarious to me, I guess, the realization that like, these things work sometimes when you don't think they're going to, or when you have never truly put in the work. Like I said, I've pretty much conquered from a nutrition standpoint everything else that I want to do. I'm not super picky. I'm not watching my calories or anything like that. I have started to watch, how much protein I take in every day because I'm trying to increase that. But I've never been able to conquer sugar. And I feel like I'm at least halfway there now. I know that there was a little bit of a recent period where I had it, maybe 2 or 3 days in a row. And I said to Christine, those first couple days after that were very difficult because it was just like, okay, the train started moving again, and are we gonna keep it going? Are we gonna cut it off? What's gonna happen here? And I was able to rein it in, and again, I'm back to not having those cravings, and so it's just really nice that I know I'm not gonna eat as much dessert and as much sweets as I did in the past, but I don't need to, and I'm not cutting it out completely. And I think for me, again, this is not a blanket statement. This is not me giving any nutrition advice, but if you've ever struggled with anything like this before, I like this approach because it says like it's not going away. I'm still going to enjoy desserts, probably even more. Like when I got that job with Score, I went to my favorite bakery here in Charlotte. This is not an ad, and I'm not being endorsed by them, but Villani's is so good. If you live here in Charlotte, please check it out. Go support them. They're in Plaza Midwood, my favorite neighborhood, although it's quickly changing to be completely different. But I said I'm going to get myself a slice of chocolate cake. It's my favorite cake. It's my favorite bakery. And I did it, so, and I didn't feel guilty at all. It's kind of similar, I guess, to the spending guilt that I had, in the sense that I couldn't spend on things past, a certain dollar limit without feeling guilty, even though I had earned the money or I had saved the money or, whatever it was. And it's just all mindset. And, to be, about 3 months in now, 3.5 months now in with this sugar journey, like I'm really happy. I've definitely lost weight, and I've definitely gained muscle. Those are two other elements, I guess, that I've been paying attention to, as well as my body fat. So there's definitely been a body transformation. It's not huge. It's not like I was, I guess, super obese before that, but I'm getting to be healthier. And that feels really good. And it also just feels great that I can still enjoy the things that I like to enjoy, which, from a pure enjoyment standpoint, IPA beers, and dessert. Those are my favorite things. You want the keys to my heart. I don't want a gift card for coffee. I don't want, the things I think that most people do. Get me a gift card for a great bakery here in Charlotte, or to one of the great breweries, and I will use it when I am ready to treat myself. Treat yourself, as they said on Parks and Rec. But cool. Well, I'm gonna top this off here. Really funny story. The other week, Christine was taking Stella to her swim lessons, and Stella just got promoted. This is not part of the story, but she just got promoted to a higher level swim class. So we're very proud of her. She's making a lot of progress. And for this particular story, though, Christine was feeding Aria, and Stella has certain swim things that she needs, that her swim diaper, her swimsuit, her towel, change of clothes, those type of things that get packed in the bag. And if I'm remembering the story correctly, I should have wrote more notes here, but if I'm remembering correctly, Christine didn't even say anything to Stella, and Stella got all of her swim stuff together. And I said to Christine, that is exactly what we want our kids to do the work for us. Partially joking, partially not. But I just thought it was hilarious how, Christine, who largely came from a household where she didn't have to do anything, and I was the complete opposite. It was really cool to just see Stella have that independence to say, I'm going to get my swim stuff together. And I don't know if she got all the right things and, whatnot, but just to make that effort and to do it, I said, this is exactly what we want from our kids. We want them to be able to be independent, to do things on their own. And, it was just a funny little antidote there to throw in. But I'm going to top it off, like I said, and get out of here. I know I talked about, a lot of things in my life that were difficult and that I was working through, and that handle hard better. That phrase for me is really helpful. We've had a lot of friends lately who've gone through their own struggles. And so I know there's a lot of people, mostly everybody, has some type of struggle. Whether it's family or friends, we've had our share of that. Over the course of the past few months. It's been a very interesting 2023 so far, to say the very least. But if you need any support, if you want to talk, feel free to reach out. But hopefully, hearing my stories and just some of the advice, unsolicited as it is helpful. And if it's not, I'll just keep plowing along, and hopefully something will resonate eventually with you. But thanks so much for listening to this episode of CERNIG. Please subscribe, share the episode, and if you have any suggestions for other things that we can do, I'm definitely open to it. But appreciate you listening, and until next time, take it easy.